Have you ever found really profound meaning or maybe just a totally different way of looking at yourself in places you didn't expect or through voices that, might not be immediately familiar?
Yeah, it happens.
Well, today, that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking a deep dive into the really extraordinary life and work of Manuel del Valle Colón.
And his volume, Omnibus Poetry for Barefoot Sketches.
Right. Our mission here is to explore this unique mix, his distinguished legal career, his tireless cultural advocacy, and his really moving poetry.
And we've got quite a bit to draw on biographical details, tributes, and of course, the poems themselves.
That's a rich mix.
It really is. And right at the core of this collection, maybe even at the heart of his whole life, is this recurring idea, the concept of barefoot.
Barefoot, okay.
Yeah, he talks about it in the dedication. It's not just like physically having no shoes on. It signifies vulnerability, authenticity, maybe going back to childhood innocence, or even just doing tasks that teach you these really deep, lifelong lessons.
So it's a metaphor.
Yeah, definitely a metaphor, yeah. And you see the word barefoot pop up again and again in the poems. It really signals how central it is.
Interesting.
And it's fascinating. Even the title itself, it's translated into Chinese, Japanese, and Thai, which kind of hints at his global perspective, these universal themes.
Okay, so let's really unpack this idea of barefoot. It's clearly way more than just, walking around without shoes. It sounds like a whole philosophical stance.
It absolutely is, yeah. Barefoot seems to represent this raw, unadorned connection, both to the world around you and to yourself.
Okay.
And you really see this reflected powerfully in the poems, like he walked to the edge of the bay. The simple act of taking off shoes, wading into the water. It becomes this way to sort of relinquish past dreams and find stillness and peace.
Letting go.
Exactly. Or think about reading books with a nightlight and on the floor. These describe these, quiet, intimate moments, creating, learning, done while barefoot. It connects the body right to the creative process itself.
That physical connection, it sounds really grounding, almost primal.
Precisely. And it carries over into art, too. In poems like Diving Platform or Blue Paint, being barefoot seems to, plug the artist right into their work. It helps release inhibitions, self-doubt.
Stripping away layers.
Yeah, getting down to the essence. And then there's this beautiful, unshielded engagement with nature, like walking barefoot in the rain. He describes this cold, cleansing feeling, a kind of giving up control.
I can almost feel that.
Right. And The Wind Blows is about simply letting the wind move through you. Letting go, finding harmony with what's around you.
It sounds almost therapeutic, that sense of surrender.
I think it is. And even the most simple, everyday things are made more, intimate, more impactful by this barefoot presence.
Like what kind of things?
Well, poems like eating homemade noodles or sweet pastries, they're not just descriptions of food, right? They're moments made really profound because he's fully present, connected. Sometimes they reveal deeper emotional truths or lessons maybe learned in childhood.
Oh.
And in Walk Barefoot in the Sand, it's about feeling the ground actually give way beneath you, indulging in the details, shaping time, allowing fantasies. That physical sensation leads somewhere deeper.
This personal, almost meditative way of being is so vivid in the poetry. But what's really grabbing me is how this barefoot philosophy, this sense of authentic connection and vulnerability, seems like it guided him through the very different world of law and public service. How did that work?
Yeah, that's where his story gets even more remarkable. The sources we have paint Manuel de Valle Colón as this rare voice of authenticity, intellect, and creativity.
So not just compartmentalizing.
Not at all. He wasn't just a distinguished attorney and a poet, but also a seeker of justice and beauty. His whole life story, really, from starting out in New York to living in Puerto Rico later, it echoes those themes you find in the poetry passage, Return, Transformation.
And his beginnings were certainly not privileged. Born in East Harlem, right? Grew up in housing projects, Carver houses, Douglas projects.
That's right.
But then high school. Brooklyn Technical High School. That seems like a key place for him. He connected with students from all sorts of backgrounds. And his yearbook messages, they really give you a picture.
Oh, they're great. What do they say?
Well, classmates called him Tech's great philosopher and debater. You see notes like, to my favorite philosopher, or may you continue to confound everyone in the world.
Huh, that's brilliant.
It shows that sharp intellect, right? But also his character. Things like, to a gentleman and a scholar, or even, may the gods fight at your shoulder.
Wow. Intense.
Yeah, and his engagement was broad even then. Free World Club, Pulling squad for city elections, debating society, managing the fencing team.
So already showing that range. And in his commitment to activism and education, that started really early, too. He got deeply involved with Aspera.
But the organization empowering Latino youth.
Exactly. He was elected Issues and Actions Chairman for their club's federation,
Right.
and he was mentored by the founder, Antonio Pantoja, and other really important figures there. Then after high school, he did the Yale Transitional Year program, went to Wesleyan, and while he was there, he was actively recruiting a minority students, researching identity issues with a Hoof grant, which supported that kind of humanities work.
So already focused on access and understanding.
Absolutely. And his studies went international Spanish literature in Madrid, Puerto Rican history and literature at the University of Puerto Rico. Then Princeton was huge for him.
What happened there?
He founded the Latino organization, recruited students, and even set up one of the first Ivy League seminars on Puerto Rican history and politics. His senior thesis actually influenced Senator Jacob Javits and the big Aspire v. Board of Education case later on.
That's incredible, seeing academic work translate directly into real-world impact.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And after Princeton, Yale Law School, where he kept teaching courses on Puerto Rican history and experience even as a law student.
Talk about commitment.
And his work then, at the Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund. Groundbreaking stuff. Securing that consent decree for bilingual education rights in the Aspera case. Getting bilingual notices for unemployment claimants in Pabon v. Levine.
Fundamental rights.
Absolutely. And his career just kept diversifying. Trial attorney for the Department of Labor, teaching at Fordham, Princeton, Yale again, New York Law School. He had a Rockefeller Fellowship with the London School of Economics. Wrote this key monograph on national origin discrimination.
Wow.
Then history making, the first Puerto Rican chief administrator of the New York State Division of Human Rights. And he really focused on tough cases. Racial and sexual harassment, AIDS discrimination.
Using that position for impact.
Definitely. And later, chief administrative law judge for the Social Security Administration back in Puerto Rico. It's like his pursuit of justice and his artistic side weren't separate tracks, but deeply intertwined. Two sides of the same coin, maybe.
Exactly. One source puts it really well, describing his legal mind as tempered by compassion, advocacy, and a tenacious defense of those too often unheard.
That compassion piece feels key.
It is, and this deep commitment to justice, it flows right into his poetry. What's really fascinating is thinking about how that barefoot authenticity, that vulnerability, actually powered his legal action.
Now so.
Well, take the Aspire case again. It wasn't just about legal technicalities, was it? It was about recognizing the fundamental unadorned right of children to learn in their own language. That feels like a direct application of that vulnerable, authentic spirit from the poem.
Ah, I see that connection now.
Yeah. And his curiosity, it wasn't just limited to his own background. It extended to Thai, Chinese, Japanese, Taino traditions, showing this immersive respect and deep translation, as one source calls it, both linguistic and emotional translation. That cross-cultural depth really sets him apart.
So, okay, with this incredible life, this range of experiences, how does it all actually show up in the poetry? The description says his Omnibus Poetry volumes trace journeys through identity, mythology, spirituality, and cultural memory, offering language not only as expression but as healing. That's a lot.
It is a lot, but you really see it woven through. Several powerful themes kind of jump out. First, there's movement, thresholds, and transformation. This constant sense of searching, taking risks, undergoing quiet changes.
But that Bay poem.
Exactly. He walked to the edge of the bay is a perfect example, letting go of past dreams to find stillness. And another one, On a Sailboat, talks about adjusting to life's forces, remembering your core mission while you're being tossed around.
Makes sense.
Then there's vulnerability and self-reflection, exploring identity, insecurity, those quiet moments of looking inward. The poem Useless is really striking here.
How so?
It's this critique of how society and maybe we ourselves can make things, or people or ideas, feel obsolete, suppressing the eternal soul of man, as he puts it. It's a call to fight against that suppression.
That's profound, linking that personal feeling of being useless to a much bigger human condition.
It is. And of course, there's a deep connection with nature, representing freedom, that sort of earthy connection, ritual. I wrote my name in the sand. It speaks to how temporary things are, but also how nature just endures, compelling us to try again every day.
A sense of perspective.
Yeah. And In a Canoe describes becoming one with the environment, finding calm and peace that way. Then there's the theme of Longing, impermanence, and emotional distance. The fragile nature of relationships, memory, sometimes trauma.
Hmm.
Nail in the Wall is such a poignant example. It illustrates how old hurts can leave this lasting hole in his heart even when there's beauty around.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then, maybe my favorite, the intimacy of the everyday, finding real meaning in ordinary moments, sensations, routines.
Like the pastries.
Exactly. Sweet Pastries highlights finding joy in those fleeting pleasures and how heightened senses can help you make new friends with all of your surroundings. Just being present.
It's those simple, almost barefoot moments again, carrying so much weight.
Absolutely. And finally, there's this strong thread of life's lessons and philosophical depth. Really distilled wisdom.
Like what?
Well, people can only die once, which sounds stark, but it's this reflection on finality, emphasizing the importance of the here and now, finding those pauses in your own breath.
Living fully.
Right. And second chances, it's this testament to human resilience, our ability to beat the odds, move past conflict, embrace life's dance, often literally running barefoot through nature in that poem.
Resilience, yeah.
And the gifting time. How time is the ultimate thing we share in human connection. It brings meaning. It can even make the world feel like it stops around you.
That's beautiful.
And maybe the most direct advice. Life goes fast. Slow it down. A call to really cherish moments, soak up sunlight, enjoy moonlight, find joy just in being, not always doing.
Just being. So ultimately, it sounds like Del Valle's poetry keeps coming back to this core question, something an anonymous tribute mentioned. What does it mean to be human here? And he explores that through everything, his law, his longing, his art.
Precisely. His entire body of work, the legal stuff and the lyrical stuff, it's all constantly inviting us, really, to shed our metaphorical shoes, to be vulnerable, to truly connect with the world and each other, and find meaning in things that pass quickly, things that happen every day, and the things that make us profoundly human.
Yeah.
It's just a powerful testament to a life dedicated to, well, justice, to beauty, and to soul-deep understanding.
We've taken quite a deep dive into the extraordinary world of Manuel del Valle Colón's Barefoot Sketches. We've seen how his life, champion of justice, sharp, intellectual, cross-cultural explorer, is just completely woven into his poetry.
It truly is.
So for you listening, maybe consider this. In a world that often pushes us to be guarded, rushing, always switched on, what would it mean for you to consciously choose to walk barefoot in your own life? How might embracing a bit of simplicity or finding that raw connection with nature, or maybe uncovering the profound in something ordinary, how might that help you find new truths? Or maybe even heal some of those unseen holes in the heart that he wrote about? Something to think about.